Dr. Ingrid Visser is first up. Right.
How do you do this on here? I can't, I've got to move. I can't stay in one place. Morning, everybody.
Morning.
I'm impressed how many of you got up early to get here. It was a struggle, wasn't it? I mean, there's so much going on and it just doesn't stop until about the time that you get to do the next thing. Okay. So one of the things that I was talking to Jeffrey about when we were discussing, and Kimberly, what should I talk about? Because I had about 8 different topics, and they're like, oh, you can't do 8 talks, Ingrid. So we were trying to find something that was very reflective of the Blackfish effect, given that was the theme that is for this Superpod. And it really became obvious to us then when we went down that track what we should be talking about. And I wanted to talk to you about the fact-checking of SeaWorld. Now, with my accent, it sounds like I'm talking about whether they're skinny or fat. But I had to write it down so you know I'm saying fact. Okay. So, yeah, there we go. So, fact-checking SeaWorld, we've all heard the what's come to be termed, what is it, alternative facts in the US? Fake news, but this isn't so much news. I mean, they're just putting out alternative facts, and we see them, and the guys that worked at SeaWorld, of course, they were privy to it and helped spread that. Oops. But not in a bad way, because they truly believed it until they didn't, and then they left. And so now we actually have them on our side, obviously, and hats off to you guys. I don't think people really realise how difficult that must have been for you guys, and it's an impressive thing that you did. So every time I have a conversation with one of the ex-SeaWorld trainers, it really hits home for me what a massive paradigm shift they created, because if it wasn't for them, Blackfish would have just been some video and it wouldn't have been able to tell the story that it did. So I want to very quickly run over a couple of things that oh, come on, don't you play naughty with me. It really isn't going to go, is it? We checked it this morning too. Okay, I'm going to have to stand over here and do this. It's a bit tragic. There we go. Okay, so obviously Naomi and some of the others have talked to you about the history of how Blackfish has changed things. But some of you may not have been to those particular talks, so I want to very, very quickly skim through these. So, and of course oh, that wasn't you? Wasn't me? Okay. The Gremlins. 23rd of January 2013. Obviously, documentary came out. Within 14 weeks, 25 million viewers, and then the black backlash started. Some of it pretty impressive, in more ways than one. Had to put that slide in there, right? And then, of course, SeaWorld's response to it all. I think that was what was so impressive. There was this void, a bit like the microphone, really. There was nothing. And then, let's see if it's the remotes or just Gremlin. No, it's Gremlins. All right, we'll work with it. Then on the 19th of April, SeaWorld was listed in the New York Stock Exchange. And that was quite a poignant moment for those that were involved in watching what was going on. The money went pretty hard and fast. And as Naomi explained to you, things changed a fair bit. From that point, this was the high. Now, we also have Kimberly in the room, and she was instrumental in doing a big push to get Southwest Airlines to stop their 26-year collaboration with SeaWorld. And yay, Kimberly. And I think that was such an epic brand management moment that I think others were sort of looking at what was going on, and that was a pivotal point. Would you agree with that, Kimberly?
Yeah, I mean, it's a famous branding partnership for
Yeah.
years. So
Yeah, exactly. 26 years, and through Kimberly's efforts in getting the public involved and speaking out, the brand actually listened. And so Southwest Airlines stopped working with SeaWorld. And I mean, can you imagine the cost even just to repaint the plane? And then Finding Dory, Gabriella Kalpawaith was talking with the team that were doing this, and the original ending was that the animals were going to go to a quote-unquote better facility, and it now is that they went out into the open ocean, and that was a direct blackfish effect. The team at the Pixar actually have been quoted as saying that it's because of blackfish that they changed that. Now this was interesting because this announcement was on the 12th, okay? And then look at this. This is SeaWorld's pricing. Yeah? Yeah, and this is public opinion. This is a real blackfish effect. And the announcement included that this was blackfish. And that was what caused this. 24th of October, CNN. Naomi spoke briefly about this as well. They've had about 21 million viewers. Naomi sent me a wonderful link that shows that this was for just the 2013 showing, and of course they've screened it since then as well. And during this screening, look at this for the tweets, just off the scale, right? And this is social media for you. It's really impressive. And then on the same day, this was a CNN poll. Yeah. So things are starting to happen at this stage, right? 25th of October. Then SeaWorld started talking about this wonderful, they have this thing called Beers, Brew and Bands. Oh, bands, beers and brew or something, whatever it is. Yeah. And so they bring in all these bands. You pay your normal SeaWorld ticket to go in. There's lots of drinks and food and entertainment, lots of bands that are included in that price. Now, one band's player's granddaughter had seen Blackfish on CNN and said, "Granddad, you can't be going to SeaWorld to play." And this is Granddad. Yeah. Yeah. So go Willie, right? And his granddaughter. And then as soon as this happened, all sorts of other bands started pulling out. And we were watching this going, wow, this is impressive. SeaWorld must really be thinking about this. But of course, their external messaging was, no, they weren't speaking out. Now, recently there's been some court cases, and Naomi was talking to you about discovery, which is where you get to discover internal documents that they don't want you to see. And so we now know, while this was going on, this is what Jeff Jacobs had written in an email. Yeah. Right, the whole chocolate mess. And that's talking about the bands. And he mentions the bands in this same email. And of course, they're not saying anything publicly. So this was the tipping point for them internally as well as externally. And at that point, in December 2013, they started their counteractions. And they started out pretty mildly, actually. They just said, Blackfish is a bunch of lies. Liars. And that was it. But then they didn't really get anybody reacting to you bunch of liars. They decided that they better start spending some money on things. And they started putting out advertisements in newspapers. I did a little bit of research online. They did full page ads. I couldn't find any prices for a full page, but I could find a half page, 200,000, so that's going to be a minimum. And I asked Gabriella, what did it cost to make Blackfish? Yeah, so Pretty impressive, right? Maybe we should get SeaWorld to fund another documentary. So, and then they started doing some other stuff. There's 69. I was very intrigued with this number. Kind of says it all, really, doesn't it? Couldn't find 68 or 70. Yeah. So, yeah, laugh. You should have seen. I snorfed. I literally had stuff coming out of my nose when I saw this number. And some of them were really, really funny. I mean, they were hilarious. Jeff and I have talked about one of them because they took one of my scientific papers and distorted the heck out of it. And it was so distorted that it was really, really funny. Anyway, then they started something that absolutely had us rolling in the aisles because they started their Ask SeaWorld campaign. How many of you guys saw this? Yeah, there was quite a few of you, right? And they were trying to be hip and really onto it and, you know, doing something on Twitter. So what they said on their website, ask at SeaWorld your questions on Twitter. And so we did. Yeah. Because what they also said on the same website, we'll have an expert. Now, please note that word. That should be underlined and highlighted like Matthew's talk yesterday. This is the key word there, expert. All right, so I happen to have a Twitter account. I don't tweet very often, or as I heard it called the other day, a twit. I don't tweet very often, but when I do, I try and have either science in it or a bit of fun. So I asked SeaWorld a question. It's a logical one to ask, right? They have shops everywhere. They're all into saying that they're about education. Let's educate people. And now the expert replied. Okay, now that link actually takes you to Ask SeaWorld. So that was good to start with. But the funny bit that really, really got me laughing, and honestly, I can't say publicly, but I nearly peed my pants. Yeah. Oh, but wait, there's more. So the poor expert, who shall not be named as an idiot, should be embarrassed. Right? And then here comes one from a professional. I mean, honestly, I had so much fun that day. It was brilliant. So thank you, SeaWorld. You made my day as well. But it wasn't just within Twitter. This was what got really funny. There were some big names watching this. And these are the banner headlines for news articles that went out internationally. And there were 30 or 40 of these style articles that went out. So at this point, Naomi and I were laughing, but we were also saying, well, you know, how are we going to deal with this? Because obviously Ask SeaWorld has some very interesting experts replying. And there's people watching this. How are we going to deal with this? What are we going to do? And I said to her, well, we need to challenge these facts somehow. And we sort of brainstormed about it, and then we said, okay, let's come up with a way that we can dialogue with lots and lots of people, and that it's not ephemeral like a tweet or a twit. And it's not like a Facebook thing where you have to keep scrolling through it. Let's do something just that little bit more substantial and that little bit more archival. So let's do a website. And we decided that we would look for verifiable facts, and that we'd separate those from the spin that we were hearing, not just from the industry but the whole corporate idea, and that we would focus on this Ask SeaWorld campaign, because some of the questions that were being asked by people weren't just as glib as mine. Some of them were very genuine and they really wanted answers, and the answers that were coming back were less than stellar. Shall we say, we were underwhelmed with them. So this is what we set up. Very simple concept, but boy was it an incredible amount of work. If any of you saw London's presentation where she was talking about work, 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 this was in capitals, underlined, in red and flashing. There was an incredible amount of effort that we had to do because we weren't just writing a glib answer. We were actually going to have to put some facts in there that were verifiable. Okay. So who is we? Well, it started out with Naomi, Candice, myself, and Lindy and Kim. And we've had help from others, but we were the core team that set this up. And if you see, there's a little arrow up the top there, and who are we is on the top of the banner of every page, so that we're not hiding this, because we thought, well, should we do this anonymously? And then we thought, no, actually we should be bold and say who we are, because we always stand up for the facts. We've got nothing to hide. So let's just be right out there and say this is us. So we wanted to make sure that it was scientific information, but we also wanted to make sure that it was balanced with the wild orca information to the captive orca information. Because in reality, if you want to answer these questions, you can't do it in the vacuum of captivity. You have to have that contrast to make it relevant. So this is the quote from the website: accurate resource for news organisations, which is documentaries as well. Legal teams, educators, students, and the general public. And then we had to think about, because this mission statement, we spent a lot of time working on what we were actually going to do, because we wanted to remain focused and not just wander off and do things that interested us, but things that would be valuable for others. So this is the list of topics that we came up with, 24 of them. Each one took us about a month each, and then we would work on it, and then we would pass it to the others, and they would all fact check our own facts, and then we would get external people to fact check out those facts as well, just to make sure we were really on the button with this stuff. So today I'm just going to talk about one of these, and that's the dorsal fin collapse, because in that list of 69 comments, this was one of the things that they targeted. Now, in 1998, I had written a paper about collapsing dorsal fins and body scars on orca. And this was in New Zealand waters. And what I found was that less than 1% of the orca in New Zealand had collapsed dorsal fins. There were some that had some wonky fins, 23% of the adult males, but only 1% had collapsed dorsal fins. And there's been subsequent research to that, and it shows that that number bears up pretty much the same for most populations. And it was the same in Iceland. Charles showed you the video of the males there, but that was still just 1% of that population. Yet compare that to captivity, 100% of the adult males. And that's not just at SeaWorld, that's at every single facility around the world, 100%. So there's definitely a link to captivity despite what they tell you. So here's the question that was posed. Is the shape of the dorsal fin related to genetics? Now, interestingly enough, they've just said that that's a general question, or frequently asked question at the bottom there. We think that the frequently asked questions were actually... No, we're really going now. All right.
Oh, and I have to stand here anyway. All right, so we think what they've done is they've morphed, and kind of like Matthew was talking about with the transposition.
Check. 1, 2, check.
It's a comedy show.
Pretty funny.
All right.
No? Good.
That didn't work either. Oh, no.
Yes, no. All right. Yelling it is.
Ingrid?
No, I can't because I've got to do the slides.
Ingrid? Will it work from there as soon as you have to start?
Just tell me when to move the slide.
Thank you. Thank you, Charles. No, see,
It's me. This must be a SeaWorld mic.
Yeah.
It's trying to mute me. All right, I give up. All right,
Shut you up.
down here. So what we think was happening is that they were taking these questions that were coming in that said things like, why are the dorsal fins collapsed? Why do the adult males have fins that are collapsing? All of this, and they morphed it into the shape of a dorsal fin, and then they threw in genetics there to kind of hide the whole it's a captivity thing. Please, Charles. So this is what SeaWorld says. You don't have to worry about reading it. It's just 2 lines, and then there's a 29-second video which is full of alternative facts. And so this is what we put up. 3 pages with lots of photographs explaining that the genetics, yes, we do believe that genetics are related to the shape of an orca fin, because if you look at residents compared to transients, that shape is different. So that is a genetic component. But if you're talking about the collapsing of dorsal fins, that is a facet of captivity and other issues. We talk about things like corkscrew, the orca at the top with his twisted dorsal fin, and then we talk about the countercurrents inside the dorsal fin, how the dorsal fin is used as a heat exchange organ. So if you are compromising it, think about your garden hose. If you bend your garden hose, the water doesn't come out as well. And if you bend it right over, it doesn't come out at all usually. Okay? So when you have a countercurrent system where you've got blood flowing to try and cool the animal down, if you've got a dorsal fin that goes over, you are affecting the way that the animal cools its body. So you do have an impact on that animal. We talk about all of that in here. Next one, please, Charles. But most importantly, we then put where we get our facts from. We have 5 scientific peer-reviewed,
Thank you, Terry. Ooh. Peer-reviewed papers, 2 scientific websites and blogs written by scientists, 1 book by scientists, and then we had 1 correct page on SeaWorld. So we're not trying, give them credit where credit's due. If they've got the facts right, then let's put that out there. But their video didn't have the facts right. This was their head veterinarian, who obviously hadn't read their correct page and hadn't read any of these papers either, and didn't really know what he was saying about this stuff because he's doing the corporate spin. Yes, please, Charles. All right. So the other one that we did was their teeth. Now, I entice you with this by saying go to the website and have a look. And I entice you with this because Jeff Ventry, myself, John Jett, and Carolina Locke and Jordan Waltz produced a paper about the teeth of captive orca. And Jeff and myself are going to give a presentation this afternoon about that study. So this is just sort of like a little teaser. And I'm not even going to go into what we've put on the website so that we can see the hits tick up as you guys go and check it out. Yes, please. So that's it. We have an email which is very kindly monitored by the team, and we try and answer questions that come in as well. Now, we had every intention to do a big update on the website for this Superpod. However, there were lots of other things going on in all our lives collectively around the world, and we didn't do that, but it is on our agenda to update some of these pages. So we ask you, if you spot something that's out of date, if you spot something that we have got wrong, please let us know, because we would like to know that we need to correct that, and we will correct it. And if you see a topic that is in an Ask SeaWorld posting or something that the industry has done that should be challenged, please let us know as well, because we're not in every area of social media or on every single page, obviously, and you guys might spot something that we haven't that you think, wow, that should be challenged and it should be fact-checked. And we would like to do that for you and for everybody else. So thank you very much, and I appreciate you coming this morning. We've got time for 1 question. Who's going to jump up first? Look, they're all asleep out there. There's not a question to be seen. Yeah. Yes.
So can people also ask questions regarding other seaquariums, such as Miami Seaquarium?
Can people ask questions regarding other aquariums? Yeah, you know, we had this focus on SeaWorld because of this media campaign of theirs. But sure, if you find something that's really, really relevant that should be challenged at another aquarium, go for it. We're focusing on orca, but we don't limit it to orca either. You know, we'll bring in other examples. And Naomi and myself both have PhDs studying wild orca, so that's why we're focusing on that. But it doesn't mean that we don't know about all the other research that's going on and have colleagues who study other species like bottlenose dolphins, for instance. Yeah. Obviously, I'm going to be around for the rest of today, so if you've got any other questions that you're too embarrassed to ask in front of everybody, just come and ask me later. Thank you.